Exploring ExtraFax for Microsoft Exchange and Microsoft 365. ExtraFax Management Console Overview. Upon installation of ExtraFax for Exchange, the ExtraFax Management Console is firstly used to configure the ExtraFax installation. Once the ExtraFax for Exchange installation has been configured, the ExtraFax Management Console is primarily used to perform such actions as starting, stopping ExtraFax services, and maintaining and updating various ExtraFax configurations and critical settings that are not accessible through the ExtraFax web interface. Focusing on the upper left quadrant of the ExtraFax Management Console, this is the area where the ExtraFax services can be controlled. For example, starting, stopping, and restarting services. The three ExtraFax services can be controlled individually or all at the same time. Shifting over to the ExtraFax Management Console toolbox, there are some basic and advanced tools that can be used. In the basic toolbox, the initial system setup is used to perform the initial ExtraFax configuration, and subsequently may be used post-configuration to modify some settings that were made during the initial system configuration. The license key tool is used to add the ExtraFax license key into the configuration after installation. It can also be used during ExtraFax upgrades in order to add the new license key. ExtraFax license keys are version specific and must always be updated after a version upgrade. If the license key is not inputted after installation or an upgrade, the ExtraFax server will not start successfully. Windows domain login information is initially inputted during initial system setup. If Windows domain login credentials have changed and need to be updated in the ExtraFax configuration, simply use the Windows Domain Login tool to update login details as needed. To test email connectivity between ExtraFax and the organization's domain email system, simply use the Test Email Connectivity tool to send an email. The email will be sent to the account that is currently logged into the Windows server. Aside from the ExtraFax Management Console, there is also a web-based interface that is used for day-to-day administration tasks such as managing organization settings, inbound and outbound faxes, inbound routing configurations, user preferences, cover pages, and other ExtraFax configurations. To access the web interface, use the Open Web Interface tool. To configure LDAP security settings, including TLS, select the LDAP Security tool. To change the behavior of the ExtraFax services when the Windows server starts up, select the Service Setting tool, where the service can be set to automatic, which is default, or to manual, or it can be disabled. SQL database login information is initially inputted during the initial system setup. If SQL database login credentials have changed and need to be updated in the ExtraFax configuration, simply use the Change Database Login Password tool to update the login details as necessary. Fax domain information is initially inputted during the initial system setup. If there is a need to change the fax domain name used by ExtraFax, simply use the Fax Domain Name tool to update fax domain details as needed. WebFax Instances defines the number of processes used to handle web requests either from a web browser or from ExtraFax API. To increase or decrease the number of WebFax instances used by ExtraFax, select the WebFax Instances tool. The recommended default setting is 4. The Alert section will show important messages, for example, an alert to run initial system setup, or a notification if the ExtraFax SQL database design has a problem resulting from a failed database schema upgrade. The System Information section of the ExtraFax Management Console conveniently provides various information and other details about the ExtraFax server. In this section, information such as the server name and Windows domain name are displayed. The status of the IIS and SMTP server are also shown, along with the SQL database server name used by ExtraFax. The System Information section also shows whether or not the optional Exchange ExtraFax connector is configured. ExtraFax server version and license information, as well as ExtraFax server services status, is also displayed for quick reference. To refresh any available system information, press F5. Updated information, if available, will be shown. As ExtraFax relies on Java runtime to function, information about the currently installed version is also displayed. Information about Windows and third-party firewall status is also provided for convenience. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. To learn more about our products, please visit our website for more product information and additional tutorials. Visit us at www.extracomm.com.